At my son's wedding, my DIL splashed me with her drink, then said the unthinkable. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like a dream, my son Derek in his crisp suit, beaming as he stood ready to say I do. But the air was thick with tension, like a storm waiting to break. The guests were there, adorned in their finest, laughter bubbling against the backdrop of soft music. But beneath the surface, shadows loomed large. I stood there, watching him fighting back tears of joy and fear. I had spent days picking out my dress, a soft lavender that matched the wedding theme. The fabric felt like hope against my skin. My heart raced as I thought of my late husband, wishing he could see our son today. Then it happened. As the officiant spoke, I felt an unexpected rush of cold liquid splatter across my dress. Shock flashed through me. I turned, my heart pounding like a drum. My new daughter-in-law, Emma, stood wide-eyed, the glass still raised, remnants of champagne dripping from her fingers. The guests stilled. A gasp ran through the crowd. Oops. My bad, she said, amusement dancing in her eyes. But it felt like a slap. My chest tightened. Did she mean it? Was this a joke? The laughter died in my throat. I glanced at Derek, searching for a cue, but he looked more confused than angry. And what is this? Emma looked right at me, the smirk wiped from her face like a shadow chased by light. Did you really think you could control everything? Your little games won't work anymore. My breath hitched. The words hung in the air, sharp and deadly. Games? What games? The guests murmured, a sea of shocked faces. I could almost see the flicker of uncertainty in their eyes as they whispered behind their hands. My grip on my phone trembled. They were watching, judging, and I felt exposed. Instantly, visions of family gatherings flashed through my mind, my desperate attempts to keep the peace, to blend our families, to make everything perfect despite the scars. I wanted to scream, to flee, yet I was rooted. There was something deeper here. Something twisted beneath this accidental drink spilling. As her eyes bore into mine, I felt an unsettling twist of betrayal. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a declaration of war. What was she trying to tell me? My soul felt raw. Was this just the beginning? How could this moment fracture everything we built? I looked for support anywhere. I had to know. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The music faded away, leaving an echoing silence that magnified every heart in the room. I clutched my phone, aware that it felt more like a lifeline than the lifeless device I usually carried. I had never expected to feel more alone, surrounded by friends and family, than I did at that moment. Mom? Derek's voice reached me, thick with confusion. I could see his fragile facade cracking, the pressure of two worlds colliding, threatening to push him under. I longed to warm his spirit, to wrap him in the love I had fought to cultivate. But how could I assure him when my own heart was spiraling? Are you okay? He continued, taking a step toward me. Derek? My throat felt constricted as I fought to form words through the fog of hurt. Before I could finish, Emma interjected. Really, Mrs. Roberts, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. It's a wedding, not a competition. Relax a little. The dig was subtle, yet it carved a deeper wound. Did she truly believe that standing by my son meant competing with her? I could feel the eyes of our guests searching for drama, like moths to a flame. Did they see the cracks spreading like veins across the veneer of our family? Derek looked between us, vacillating between loyalty and disbelief. I wondered if I could muster that strength. Could I reassure him while simultaneously putting out the flames that Emma had ignited? As I wiped the damp fabric of my dress, I found brief comfort in the warmth of one familiar face. Sarah, an old family friend, stepped forward. Her eyes were soft, filled with understanding. Is there anything I can do? She whispered, just loud enough to reach me. Her kindness felt like a gentle hand on my shoulder, reminding me that even in discord, there were still corners of compassion. I tilted my head slightly in appreciation, wishing I could rise above the storm brewing within me. But then Emma's voice cut through again, sharper than before. If you could control everything, wouldn't you have done it by now? She spat, sparking a fire within me that I struggled to contain. Control? Is that what all this is about? I shot back, my voice rising despite my wish to keep everything calm. You think I'm trying to control you? These aren't games, Emma. This is family. Her laughter rang out, but it sounded like shards of glass. Family? She echoed, her voice rising mockingly. Family doesn't break each other down at a wedding. I had loved her since she had entered our lives. I remembered the day Derek first brought her home, the gleam in his eyes, the way he spoke about her with such tenderness. But now, standing on this precipice, I questioned how we had arrived at this darkened path. Enough, Derek cried, stepping between us, his face contorting with frustration as he faced Emma. This is supposed to be our day. Can't you just drop this? For me? The plea hung uselessly in the air, wrought with need yet blasted against the unforgiving winds of misunderstanding that I felt remnants of courage urging me to protect my son, to shield him from the catastrophe unfurling. But the dread of dismantling the already fragile tapestry of our family left me paralyzed. In that moment, my heart shifted in an unexpected direction. Could I truly mend what was so badly frayed? I felt the press of possibility against my chest. Maybe it wasn't just Emma holding a grudge. Was part of this war my own unwillingness to let the past go? As she opened her mouth again, perhaps to deliver more poison, I felt something, a thread of commitment burned in the pit of my stomach. I could remain silent and let her cast me as the villain in this story. Or I could acknowledge the truth I had buried deep. Emma, I finally said, my voice softer but unwavering. Maybe you're right. I've tried to control things because I wanted to protect Derek. But I can see now that it's not just me involved anymore. Just let it go, Mom. His eyes implored me to understand. And in that fleeting moment, as Emma appeared taken aback, I wondered, had I taken the first step toward a shred of understanding, or had I merely set the stage for a deeper divide? More murmurs engulfed the gathering. I glanced at Derek, my heart racing. Then, unexpectedly, a menacing figure stepped forward from the back, his face a twisted mask of resentment. You think she'll ever let you forget who the real enemy is, Derek? I froze, the cruel weight of his words landing heavily beside the remnants of my heart. Who was this? The air thickened as I turned to gauge Derek's reaction. Suddenly my resolve wavered. This was no longer just a fight between family. Something darker lurked beyond the smiling faces. Would I ever find a way to navigate this turmoil without losing everything? The chaos of murmurs and incredulous gasps washed over me like a wave, each sound intensifying the tension that tightened around my chest. The man who had stepped forward, his presence warped by shadow and bitterness, pulled my focus like a magnet. Though Derek had cast his gaze downward, his jaw clenched tight. Who are you? I heard my voice tremble, a whisper laced with both trepidation and authority. It was a pathetic attempt at defiance, as if the weight of my bewilderment could buoy my indignation. I felt the tremors within me, swirling into an anxious storm. Just someone who knows a little too much about family secrets, he replied, his lips curling into a slight, mocking smile. Derek bristled at his words, anger simmering beneath the surface, and I feared for my son's reaction. I remembered the stories Derek had confided under the dim light of his childhood bedroom, grappling with the shadows of family history, and the way kinships could turn into suffocating webs. Get away from him! I shouted, my instinct to protect surging like a battering ram against my insecurities. My heart thudded in my ears, drowning out the hesitant murmurs around us. Do you even understand what's at stake here? He pressed on, stepping closer, his gaze flickering between Derek and me, igniting the very air cold with memories I wished to bury. All you do is hide behind false narratives about family. They're crumbling, you know. One crack leads to another. Soon enough they'll bring you down too. That chilling truth wrapped around my heart like a vice. Fear snaked into my mind, battling the urge to shield my son from whatever darkness threatened. I fought so hard to create a sense of belonging for him, struggling against the fierce winds of history and unyielding rivalries. And yet, here it was again, clawing its way back to us in a moment when we should have been celebrating. Enough! Derek's voice rose, trembling with emotion as he stepped between this stranger and me, sheer resolve written across his face. I don't care about your secrets. I care about my family. About Mom. About Emma. You need to go. His eyes held a raw energy that mirrored the storm building within me, composure faltering beneath the reality of this fight. Family. The man laughed, bitterly, as if the word itself was poison on his tongue. Is this really where you think you belong, Derek? With people who tell you what you can or can't do? You think loyalty is worth a broken heart? Enough, I said, back off. Derek spat, pushing forward with an intensity that seemed foreign to him, yet noble in its protectiveness. I felt a fleeting spark of pride swell momentarily amidst the turmoil. But in that instant the battle lines were drawn wider, and I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Then Emma, who stood quietly watching from a distance, let out a sigh that could have charged the air with static. You're not helping, you know. Her voice was sharp, but there was a tremor to her words that suggested something deeper was at play. Instinctively, I turned toward her, hoping for a moment of unity, for us to align against this threat, but she crossed her arms tightly, drawing barriers around her own insecurities. We need to be better than this, especially today. The shattered pieces of wedding celebration flickered in my periphery, the intricately designed invitations, the carefully arranged flowers, all testimony to a moment that felt in danger of disintegrating. It was then, as I began to feel small under the weight of choices unmade, that the spark of hope flickered within me. We can fix this, I said quietly, allowing the vulnerability to seep through. There's still time to help heal the wounds if we just talk this out. I didn't know whether anyone would listen, but perhaps acknowledgement could lead us through the rubble. The man before us hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his face, but I wasn't certain if it was a fleeting victory or the beginning of a deeper schism. Then his gaze narrowed, and the condescending smile returned. You really think talking is going to solve anything? You're just a puppet in a game orchestrated by forces beyond your understanding, he said harshly, his words striking a raw nerve deep within me. Stop it, Derek shouted, fists clenched, transformation washing over him as he stood stark and unyielding against that looming menace. I watched my son, the boy I had nurtured into a mighty young man, and saw the shadows of his childhood replicate in strength and fury. The weight of abandonment, perceived and real, lay heavy in the air. The indifference of moments lost danced just beyond our reach, as if in response to the discovery of vulnerability. Derek's phone vibrated in his pocket with an urgency that felt electric. He hesitated but pulled it out, just the gleam of the screen illuminating a new layer of tension. What now? He murmured beneath his breath, though before he could read the message, the man lunged unpredictably. This is your only warning. And then a scream pierced through the air like shattered glass, echoing through my bones, and I spun around. It came from the back of the room, an agonized wail that turned every head and halted every breath. What now? I whispered, panic blooming at the edges of my reason as the thrumming chaos roared. Everything I had fought to protect teetered irrevocably on the brink of calamity. And as Derek's face paled under the weight of darkness, the air seemed to crackle around us, retribution looming closer than ever. What had I unwittingly unleashed? Would the fragments of our family shatter beyond repair? The room, once bustling with laughter and dancing, now felt claustrophobic, filled with heavy dread. I turned instinctively towards the direction of the scream, the echoes wrapping tightly around my heart. Derek's grip on his phone slackened. He stared at me, the stark realization settling in his eyes that whatever awaited us in that corner of the room could be far worse than mere family secrets. Another scream brought my attention back, sharper this time, and I moved instinctively, propelled by a protective urge that surged through me. My legs carried me towards the sound, though every step felt heavier, as if the ground itself conspired against us. Derek was close behind, and from the corner of my eye, I caught Emma's silhouette briefly before she made a choice to remain in the periphery, her harsh breaths echoing her struggle. As we rounded the corner, I froze. My heart sputtered, caught in a throbbing staccato of disbelief. In the farthest stretch of the banquet hall, a young woman crumpled on the floor, eyes wide as fear contorted her features. It was my niece Olivia, the youngest daughter of my estranged brother. The sight of her in distress sent a tremor through my gut. Olivia was clutching her arm, blood staining her dress as it oozed through her fingers. Around her, a small crowd formed a cluster of concerned faces, their voices a muddled cacophony of panic and confusion as they called for help, but all I could do was stand there, paralyzed by memories I had frozen long ago and the bitter taste of regret lingering on my tongue. Olivia! Derek lunged forward, cutting through the throng. By instinct I followed, ignoring the heaviness that draped over my shoulders. He knelt beside her, his hands gentle yet urgent as they assessed the wound. What happened? His voice was steady, though I could see the turmoil swirling just beneath the surface. Through the tears, Olivia choked out her words. I tripped, someone pushed me. The implication hung in the air like a blade, the thrill of cynicism stealing the room. Amongst the onlookers, I noticed the unmistakable figure of the man, darkness swirling around him like an ominous fog, a twisted satisfaction glowing in his eyes. My fingers curled into fists at my sides, gnashing my anger against the primal fear that threatened to consume us. Derek, we need to get her out of here, I cried, urgency shredding through me, though I wasn't entirely sure what here meant any longer. The wedding was disintegrating before our very eyes, unraveling into chaos. But Derek's eyes flickered back to mine, a deep uncertainty chiseling through the strength of his gaze. What if this is connected to that man? Somebody just help. Emma finally forced her way through, her voice a thin knife entering the fray. She knelt beside her cousin, her resolve unfurling into fierce determination. We can't let him win. Not like this. Surrounded by urgency and the low thrum of panic rising from the guests, I felt the gash in Olivia's arm encapsulate all we were fighting against. Family dynamics crumbled in the face of this sudden and brutal occurrence. It was a reminder that shadows could manifest even in moments meant for love. But then, amid the chaos of concern, a soft hand connected with mine. I glanced down to see one of the guests, an older woman with kind eyes and a reassuring grip. You're doing your best. Just keep your loved ones close, she whispered, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a flicker of warmth amidst the layering fog of despair. Derek's breaths quickened in tune with Olivia's distress. Mom, we have to go to the hospital. She can't wait. I nodded, unwilling to let my fear anchor me down. He was right. We had to rise above. We had to fight back against the tide of darkness infiltrating the remains of our fragile family. Just then the man stepped closer, arms crossed, a victorious smirk plastered on his face. Is this how you want to spend your wedding day? Looks like there's more to the family story than you thought. He taunted, voice dripping with malice as Olivia winced at a sudden movement at in. That moment, the truth of our battle crystallized. This wasn't just about family secrets anymore. It was about breaking the cycle that threatened to consume us. As much as I wanted to shield my children from this menace, it was clear they would have to confront it head-on. Gathering my breath, I turned to Olivia, who was searching my face for comfort. You're stronger than you know, sweetheart. We'll face this together. Mom, behind you. Derek's voice sliced through the charged moment. I whirled just in time to see the man lunging forward, malevolence twisting his features, the darkness of him reaching out to eclipse our fledgling hope. Panic coursed through my veins as I pushed forward, determined to shield my family from the very shadows I thought we had evaded for so long. As his hands reached for me, every beat of my heart thrummed with desperation and an innate sense of duty to protect those I loved. But just as I braced myself, the room exploded into a whirlwind of chaos. Derek stepped protectively in front of me, the weight of our unacknowledged battles culminating in this singular, heart-stopping moment. And just as my breath hitched, I heard Emma's voice ring out with a new clarity, filled with unanticipated resolve. No, we won't let you take anyone else from us. In that heartbeat, with the shadows closing in, everything I thought I knew seemed to dissolve, leaving one burning question spiraling within me this time. Would we emerge stronger, or would we fall beneath the brutal tide of fate? The air around us thickened with tension, a palpable dread wrapping tightly around my chest, making each breath feel like an exertion of will. In the heart of that chaotic din, I felt moments stretch into eternity, the alarming convergences of pain and fear becoming almost unbearable. Derek surged forward, shouting for help, his face a mask of determination as he faced the man looming over us. But even in that moment, I could see the flickers of doubt in his eyes. Could we really stand up against the darkness he represented? My heart thudded against my ribs, the thump echoing the desperate pulse of our fractured family story. Why do this? I managed to ask, my voice nearly lost amid the rising tide of chaos. I found myself standing beside Derek, a united front even in the face of our fiercest adversary, desperation pulsating through every fiber of my being. Why hurt us? The darkness before us smiled, an expression devoid of humanity. Because your family has always thought themselves untouchable, a nest of secrets wrapped in fairy tale endings. He stepped closer, and my instinct was to pull Olivia in tight, her small frame trembling beside us. But endings are so easily rewritten, aren't they? Emma's face twisted in anger, and she stepped forward fuming. You're sick. We won't allow you to destroy us from the inside out. I felt her protective spirit intertwine with mine and Derek's, proving that within our fear, there were embers of strength waiting to ignite. As the crowd whispered, some curious, others terrified, I felt the pang of isolation amidst them. None of them knew the true depth of our family's darkness, nor the long-held grudges that lay hidden beneath the surface. The man's presence felt like a corrosive agent, exposing our wounds before everyone, forcing us to confront not only him but our own shortcomings. Like rotten apples in a barrel, he continued, smugness creeping into his tone. One blemish stains them all, and soon the others will follow. The outright proclamation of doom sent a ripple of disbelief through me, yet I could also tell that many in attendance felt a flicker of fear at his words. The older woman's warm grip on my hand tightened again, but now it felt like that of a lifeline. I met her kind gaze, and for the first time, I recognized the resolve within my own heart. This ends with us, I said, surprised at the strength that echoed in my voice. No more secrets, no more darkness. A small gasp erupted from a corner of the crowd as Olivia glanced between the man and me, vulnerability etched in her features. Mom, but if no, sweetheart. We cannot allow fear to shape our story any longer. My own voice surprised me, rich with certainty and the weight of our shared struggles. There was a flicker of something hope, perhaps in her eyes as she regarded her cousin Emma, someone bolder than any of us had been before. Together, Emma whispered, her voice a quiet flame fighting back the oppressive shadows. Though it was merely a word, it carried the entirety of our family's legacy, stitched together with frayed threads of loyalty and love. Yet just as the latent warmth surged through us, the man's sardonic laughter broke through the fragile moment, rattling the air. Oh, but you don't understand. This is far from over. Family isn't something you can just eradicate. His sinister tone wafted around us, each syllable clawing at the edges of my resolve. Not until you unravel everything I've planted. Confused murmurs spread through the gathering, my insides twisting with dread. What do you mean? Derek's voice trembled slightly as he clutched Olivia, who whimpered softly, her distress signaling the return of urgency that felt like an icy hand against our hearts. He tilted his head, amusement flickering across his face. I mean the truth. The layers you've hidden behind. You think revealing dark family secrets will liberate your ties? He let out a harsh chuckle. You've barely scratched the surface. How would you know? Emma spat back, her fierce nature revealing what I had failed to see until now, her raw and unyielding courage. Oh, but dear Emma, he taunted, I know far too much. Don't you see? There's a storm brewing, and you're all standing out in the open, waiting for it to break. But soon, it'll rain down painful truths that'll put your love to the test. Panic drummed in my veins, and I glanced around at the faces I loved, and the fear morphed into a different kind of energy, a fierce resolve. Yet beneath my confidence, dread gnawed at my insides, driven by the weight of what might lurk behind those truths he insinuated. What had he uncovered? What had been sheltered too long? I had fought this battle for so long, still unprepared for what was yet to come. Suddenly, Olivia's cries broke the tension, and my pulse raced once more. I rushed towards her, cradling her in my arms, her weight calming me even amid the storm. Derek, standing tall and steadfast, reflected that determination as he trained his eyes back on the man's dark form, tension tingling in the atmosphere. Let us go, I demanded, my voice resolute as I glanced toward Emma and Derek. We will not let him win. We will find our truth, and we will fight through the storm. But as we turned to face the path ahead, ready to take on whatever darkness loomed behind us, I caught a flicker of movement, a shadow that slipped beneath the tables, the familiar form unmistakable. My heart plummeted into a chasm of despair. Mom! Olivia's voice quivered, trembling with foreboding as we turned toward the unease lurking in the shadows. There at the edge of the room stood someone I never expected to see, someone who would change everything, and I froze. The ground beneath me shifted as one irrefutable truth gnawed at my heart. This battle was only just beginning. And just then, in that crowded banquet hall, I realized that the storm was closer than any of us had anticipated. As we braced for the upheaval of the secrets long buried, one overwhelming realization enveloped me: some truths were yet to emerge, and they would shatter everything I believed to be true. The dim light of the banquet hall flickered ominously, casting unsettling shadows on the walls as I stared at the figure emerging from the gloom. My mind raced, grappling with a tumult of emotions: fear, betrayal, disbelief. Alice, I whispered, the name barely forming on my lips. How could this be? The woman who had been out of our lives for years now stood before us, her presence a catalyst of chaos. Her eyes glinted with an unsettling sharpness, a mix of defiance and vulnerability. Surprised to see me? She asked, a chilling smile playing on her lips. It seemed like a lifetime ago when we had severed ties, but in that moment, the haunting memories flooded back. Past arguments turned bitter, promises shattered like glass. Derek's grip on Olivia tightened, mirroring the gnawing anxiety that churned deep within me. What are you doing here? He demanded, his voice tinged with anger. You shouldn't be here. But family ties are a complex thing, aren't they? Alice replied, her tone taunting as she stepped closer, her heels clicking against the tiled floor with an eerie rhythm. Especially when they're fraught with secrets waiting to spill. I felt the air vanish from my lungs, my thoughts spiraling. In all my effort to protect my family, I had overlooked the very person who had left us in turmoil. We don't want you here, I muttered, but my words felt weak, drowned by the storm brewing within the room. Too late for that, she replied, glancing casually at the gathering guests, whose curious eyes now trained on her. I have so much to tell. You'd be surprised at what binds us. What shadows lurk in the corners of your so-called happy family? The crowd murmured, and I could see how her presence sparked intrigue. I wanted to scream at them to turn away, to shield my family from the maelstrom brewing at our feet. Yet uncertainty flickered through me, a seed of fear planted once again. Mom, please, Olivia whispered, my daughter's eyes wide with confusion and anxiety, reminding me how much was at stake. Emma shifted on her feet, her anger simmering beneath the surface. Just when we thought we might find a moment of clarity, she had returned to complicate everything. A sudden chill settled in the air, the kind that promised impending winter, as Alice's expression softened momentarily, revealing something unguarded. I didn't come to hurt you. I came for the truth, she said, her voice lower, almost desperate. I wasn't the villain you made me out to be. You just didn't know the whole story. In that instant, the weight of her words seemed to hang in the air like a fragile truth, ripe for the picking. What do you know? I asked, guilt alternating with fierce protectiveness. The refuge of ignorance was fading, and I knew I had to face whatever storm she was poised to unleash. I know things between your daughter and my son's, secrets you've tried to suffocate. Her shouting crescendo startled everyone, and I reeled back, bracing myself for the fallout. Cold sweat lined my palm as I looked to Derek, whose eyes darted with disbelief and anger. Enough. Leave her out of this. He screamed, but Alice pressed on, oblivious to our pain and fear. Am I to just leave this behind? To pretend it doesn't matter? It's too late for that, and I won't let you rule my son's life from the shadows. Her voice rang with conviction that rattled me, yet the truth she dangled felt like knives against my heart. I swayed under the weight of what this confrontation meant. A precursor to all the buried history unraveling. Family always reels us back in, doesn't it? Emma whispered, standing beside me, her solidarity anchoring me despite the chaos. But we didn't come here for this. We should be celebrating, not tearing each other apart. Celebrating? Oh, sweet Emma, Alice mocked, her laughter laced with bitterness. What a naively hopeful sentiment. You think your celebration can erase the pain of the past? The dysfunction? You really don't know, do you? Secrets bind us tighter than love ever could. As if pierced by her words, a flash of realization surged through me. The unraveling threads of our family fabric were fraying faster than I could repair them. The shattering of happy memories felt imminent, and dread coiled around my heart. What was the truth she referred to? I clutched Olivia closer, her small fingers gripping mine as if seeking a refuge from the tempest brewing between us. Alice, this is a game, I said, my voice firm despite the trembling in my chest. If you care about this family at all, tell us why you're here. Let me show you instead, she replied, stepping back, her features darkening. A storm is coming, and it won't just be your past that surfaces. It's about your present masquerading as the future. Mom, came Olivia's strangled voice again, eyes wide with uncertainty, and I felt the room spin as if the universe had realigned itself around a reckoning we could hardly fathom. Be careful what you wish for, Alice said softly, her words chilling as they lingered in my mind. And just like that, with the tension threading tighter between my heart and throat, I realized that I could no longer shield my family from the impending storm. As shadows lengthened against the flickering candles, I knew the time had come for secrets to erupt. With each heartbeat, uncertainty swelled within me. Were we truly ready for what lay beneath our beautiful, cracked facade? Just as I steeled myself for the truth, a sudden crash echoed from the molded archway, pulling our attention away from Alice. I turned to find my sister standing there, her face pale and taut with fear, cradling a torn piece of something old. A letter, yellowed and frayed, one I recognized all too well. My stomach twisted as she spoke, the words hovering in the air, heavy with unspoken consequences. I found this. Changes everything. The room fell into silence, the gravity of her words eclipsing any hope of a tranquil reunion. As we all braced ourselves for the storm cascading down from our pasts, ready to drown us in memories lost and truths forgotten. The echoes of my sister's revelation hung in the air like a noose tightening with each passing second. My heart raced, each beat pounding in my ears as if trying to drown out the deafening silence. I glanced around, searching for anchorage in the faces of my family, but all I found were eyes wide with anticipation, the calm before a storm of emotions ready to break. What do you mean it changes everything? I managed to croak, though it felt as if my throat were closing shut. My sister stepped forward, holding the letter out as if it were a delicate, fragile artifact that might shatter at the slightest touch. It's from Mom, she said, her voice shaky yet resolute as she handed it to me. It was hidden in her things. There was something she never told us, something about Alice. The name felt like a shackle around my heart, binding my insecurities to her insidious presence. My fingers quivered as I took the letter, its brittle paper crinkling beneath my touch. I could feel Alice's gaze bore into me, a patient predator waiting for me to unveil old secrets. I stole a glance at Olivia, whose face mirrored my own anxiety, and pushed through the weight in my chest to read the words written long ago, inked in a time long erased from my memory. That as I opened the letter, my breath caught in my throat. The spidery writing formed a loop of nostalgia and despair that crept like vine into my consciousness. To my dearest children it began, and with each line, I felt the barriers of my own memories crumble, giving way to secrets buried under years of pain and loss. Mom never talked about Alice in these terms, I mumbled, the shock igniting a whirlwind of emotions. She spoke of their differences, their arguments, but never hinted at something profound. Alice stepped close, her eyes wide as if savoring the moment, feeding off my unraveling. You're about to learn how these shattered pieces connect, she taunted, her voice dripping with an unsettling mix of excitement and sorrow. Keep reading. I let the words of the letter wash over me, struggling to keep pace with the barrage of memories surging forth. I made mistakes with Alice, I read out loud, willing myself to grasp the weight of my mother's admission. We were young and reckless, and I should have protected her, but she lost her way, and in her we lost ours. What mistakes? I asked, my voice barely there, drowned by an avalanche of disbelief. I felt Emma's hand gripping my arm, her presence grounding me against this tumult of revelations. Alice shifted, her demeanor transforming from taunting to contemplative. Mistakes breed chaos, didn't you know? Family can be as cruel as it is loving. I've seen it eat lives whole, she murmured, and for a moment, I glimpsed a flicker of vulnerability behind her bravado. The letter continued, detailing a complex web woven with choices and sacrifices. It spoke of untold secrets involving stolen love and broken promises, of family rifts that bore scars too deep to ever heal. As each line unfolded, I could feel the fragile threads of our family narrative fraying further. What did Alice do? Derek stepped closer, his frustration bubbling beneath the surface. What did she take from us that none of us knew? Alice shrugged, a hint of a smirk on her lips. When people stay quiet, it's usually because they have something to hide. But oh, how the truth gnaws at their souls. And you wonder why I'm here now. I pressed my palm against my forehead, desperate for clarity amidst the confusion. Just tell us, Alice. What do you want? I want to unveil the past, the truth that holds us captive in misery. I want you to understand the choices made for you behind closed doors in shadows. The lies that you believed, the ones that warped your idea of family. Before I could utter another word, the crowd that had gathered began to stir, whispers swirling like an invisible tide. I followed their gaze and saw a pair of unfamiliar figures at the edge of the hall, faces etched with concern and curiosity. They didn't belong to the inner circle of friends or relatives. Dread filled the pit of my stomach. What new challenges were they bringing? Had Alice summoned others from our past as well? Close beside me, Olivia stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with both fear and a determination that belied her youth. Who are they? She muttered, her voice trembling as the uncertainty seeped into her like poison. Alice turned slowly, and her expression shifted as recognition flickered across her face. You've come at just the right moment, she said, her tone taking on a disturbing tranquility. Everything is about to collide, past, present, and future. As the tension mounted, the new figures approached. Are you ready for the truth? One of them said, their voice slicing through the rising chaos. Because we have a story that changes everything. And with that, everything shifted in an instant. Just as the weight of their arrival settled over us like a dark cloud, a jarring realization gripped my chest. Constricting my breath, was I ready to unearth the shards of our family history? Or would some truths be better left buried deep within the shadows? Whatever they revealed, I could only hope it wouldn't tear apart the fragile remnants of the life I had fought so hard to protect. The murmurs of disbelief ricocheted around the room, casting an air of uncertainty that was electric. I could feel the warmth of my family close by. Yet the chill of impending revelation seeped into my bones, drawing a shroud over the reunion that was supposed to bring us together. I shifted my focus, my eyes landing on the two newcomers, trembling as they took tentative steps forward. Who are you? I shouted over the swell of anxious voices, hoping my sound would pierce through the fog of confusion lurking like a storm cloud overhead. One of them, a man with salt and pepper hair framing a weathered face, took a breath as if summoning the strength to speak. My name is Daniel. This is Lila. He nodded at the woman beside him, her hazel eyes darting nervously, searching for familiarity. We came because of Alice. We think it's time for you to know the full truth, and time for some healing. More truths? Olivia cried, exasperation crossing her features as she clutched my arm, her grip tightening in fear. Haven't we had enough of that today? Actually, there's something you all deserve to hear. Lila interjected gently, her voice surprisingly soothing given the chaos surrounding us. We knew Alice when she was younger, and there are pieces of this puzzle that you may not understand without our perspectives. Why now? Derek blurted, frustration boiling over, his pulse thrumming with anger. If you had something to say, why didn't you say it before? Because some truths are hard to share, Daniel replied, his expression earnest yet heavy with the weight of years lost. And some stories choose to be told when they can be heard. I could hear the tremor in his voice and felt a flicker of empathy. There were stories we had buried beneath layers of silence, the kind that demanded to be unshackled, no matter how ragged they felt. But did that mean we were ready to face them? Please, Lila spoke softly, her gaze earnest. You think you know Alice, but there is a depth there that has always been obscured. You need to understand the choices she made were rooted in love and fear alike. I glanced at Alice, whose expression had morphed into something almost resembling remorse, and my heart twisted. The air crackled with the confrontation that was about to unfold. The memories of our sister steeped in duality, an omnipresent shadow hovering between longing and resentment. You knew, Mom? I asked, desperate for clarity amid the storm. Why did you come now? Silence fell over the room, tension entwining with disbelief as we waited for an answer. Our breaths collectively held as if exhaling would shatter the fragile moment. I was your mother's friend, Lila finally admitted, her voice steady with a resolute kind of honesty. When Alice came to stay with us, she was lost in ways you can't imagine. Your mother tried to help her, but Alice didn't see it that way. The choices they made took them down two very different paths. What choices? Derek pressed, seeming to teeter between eager anticipation and the dread of unknown betrayals. Alice, she struggled more than you think, Daniel finally said, And I could see the flickers of pain etched into his features as he continued. There were relationships lost, love, sacrifices made. Your mother wrote letters I still have. She believed in Alice, even when the world turned its back. With a glance sideways, I caught Olivia teetering on the brink of tears, her crushed expression entwined in disbelief. The weight of family history bore down on us, threatening to fracture the already tentative bond we had managed to forge within our chaotic web. Certain truths aren't mere curiosities, Lila added, her tone now somber. Sometimes they are the burden of reality that scars deeper than you know. To share them means plunging into the abyss of regret, but it's essential. You all need to step into the light of understanding. I'm not sure I want to, I whispered, my voice trembling under the weight of grief and nostalgia. But even as I spoke, I felt the flickering flame of curiosity and hope at the possibility of healing. Alice shifted beside me, her voice breaking. Maybe some truths could finally give us a chance to forgive, to see each other in a new light. As her words hung in the air, hope danced hesitantly among the torment, teasing with the idea that perhaps, just perhaps, there could be redemption amid the ashes of our family history. But just as I began to gather my strength to ask the next question, to plunge deeper into this whirlpool of revelation, the fire alarm screamed to life, blaring through the hall, cutting us off from the impending secrets hanging from the newcomer's lips. Panic erupted in the crowd, grabbing hold of hearts already stretched to their breaking point, and with it came the dread of being torn away from the answers that had begun to unfurl. The chaos escalated as people clamored to the exits, leaving our family at the center, caught in the eye of the storm, trembling at the edge of a truth on the brink of revelation. Then, in the frenzy, I caught a glimpse of Alice. She seemed to hesitate, glancing back before following the rush out, confusion and remorse woven into the furrow of her brow, and just like that, the moment of understanding slipped away, leaving me standing in a whirlpool of voices and empty encounters yet to be fulfilled, wondering what would remain when the smoke cleared. Would the truth still be there, waiting for us to return? Or might it have slipped through our fingers entirely, leaving us stranded in the shadows of old secrets we'd barely begun to uncover? The air was thick with anxiety as we spilled out of the building, the shrill sound of the fire alarm ringing in our ears. People rushed along the gravel path, illuminated by the harsh lights of emergency vehicles that had arrived moments too late. I felt unsteady, like I was teetering on the precipice of something monumental that had now been abruptly stripped away. "Is it real?" Derek shouted, his words barely audible against the cacophony, frustration crawling back into his tone. "Are we really just going to run from this?" I wanted to reach for him, anchor him against the tide of fear that swirled around us. "Derek, we have to get out," I began, but the urgency of his expression stopped me. "I don't want to run anymore, not from them, not from each other," he said, and for a moment, it was as if all the chaos quieted into a single poignant heartbeat. "I don't want to lose this chance." Just then a flicker of movement caught my eye. Lila stood by a nearby SUV, her hazel eyes wide with worry. "Wait," she shouted, her voice cutting through the clamor. "You must listen. We can't leave like this, we need to talk." But the crowd pressed on around us, scattering into the night as urgency dominated. Around me, family faces flashed with concern and confusion. I felt more alone than ever. I glanced back in the direction of the exit, but Alice was nowhere to be found. The moments we had dared to tread into each other's depths were slipping away like sand through clenched fingers. "Mom, where's Alice?" I called out, scanning the crowd, desperation tightening in my chest. "She was right behind us," Olivia exclaimed, her voice hitching. "What if she focus?" I cut in, my heart racing. "We can't make this about her right now, there's a fire. We need to get clear." Just then I felt something brush against my arm. It was Lila, her expression grave yet sincere. "She has a right to know, you know. Her future, your future, depends on understanding what happened." Hollowed out by fear, I whispered, "I don't want to know what happened, I want my sister back." I could barely recognize my own voice, stripped of its bravado, echoing the truth of widespread uncertainty. Lila stepped closer, urgency blooming in her demeanor. "What if I told you there might still be a piece of Alice left? If you look hard enough, you might find a bridge to her past. You'll see that this isn't just about losing someone, that it's about finding the parts you didn't know were missing." I felt an unexpected pang of hope stab through my heart, but uncertainty still loomed. And how do we even start? We're stuck here, and Alice she won't go far, Daniel said, suddenly at my shoulder. Hold on to that thread, confront what you must. But don't let fear sever the connection. Moments passed, stacking up like a house of cards, a liminal space pregnant with potential but teetering at the edge of collapse. I fought against the rising tide of despair, only to be pushed deeper into the abyss by my own thoughts, each moment counting against us. And just when I thought I had those last remnants of resolve, a soft rumble through the crowd turned to gasps and screams. The distant glow of flames began to flicker, a fiery reminder of the chaos blinking closer, painting the night sky in shades of orange. My heart sank. Suddenly I felt a shove at my side. Get back! Lila shouted, her hand gripping my shoulder fiercely as she yanked me away from the growing flames. The urgency propelled us away into the parking lot. As the fire leapt higher, mouths of flame licking the metal structures around us. What the hell has happened? Olivia screamed, fear etched deep into her voice as she glanced at the makeshift gathering of anxious onlookers. We can't lose focus. The families who are still here? I murmured, scanning the throng of faces, feeling the weight of everything that hadn't yet been said looming over us. There! Derek shouted, his finger pointing through the smoke. Is that her? I squinted amidst the shadows. I saw a familiar silhouette standing by the heap of fallen chairs, the last place Alice had stopped before we fled. She held something close to her chest, an expression on her face I couldn't quite interpret. Alice! I shouted, pushing through the crowd, my heart pounding in tandem with the roaring flames. Stay there! Just as her eyes met mine, a look of sheer panic flashed across her face. It's true! She cried, raising something glinting in the moonlight. It's all true, and before I could process what she meant, a shock wave of heat rushed toward us, a chaotic wave of smoke and flames engulfing the space between us, tearing down the remnants of everything we had built before. In that fleeting moment my heart fell as the crowd gasped again. The connection frayed, and all that I hoped for, all the truths I ached to understand, were caught in the blaze, leading me to the edge of something irretrievable. No! I screamed, reaching out, helpless against the tumultuous force that had torn us apart once more as darkness swallowed the light around us. I felt the chilling grip of lost hope clutching my soul. What answers awaited on the other side of the flames? Would the revelations remain hidden in the ashes, or would they rise again, begging to be discovered, no matter the cost? The relentless sirens echoed in my ears, merging with the crackling roar of the flames as I rushed toward Alice, willing my feet to move faster. But each footfall felt like wading through molasses. My heart thundered, a cacophony of desperation gathering strength from the depth of my love, knowing that we were teetering on the precipice of profound discovery. As I broke through the final barrier of smoke, I caught sight of her once more, surrounded by shadows. My sister was doubled over, clutching something against her chest, eyes wide with fear and determination. Alice! I called, drawing closer even as the heat pressed around us like suffocating hands. Her gaze met mine, flickering with a mix of vulnerability and an unyielding resolve. In the midst of chaos, it felt as if time slowed. You have to listen, she cried out, her voice barely rising above the chaos. Everything is connected. I've held on to this for too long. My own voice trembled, emotions clashing: betrayal, anger, sorrow. So you finally choose to reveal it all now? Right in the middle of a disaster? It's not just about me, she shouted, her breaths coming in ragged gasps, each word vibrating with emotion. It's about us, our family, and the ties that bind us whether we like it or not. I wanted you to hear the truth before it's too late. I was on the edge of understanding, the weight of my fears shifting to something heavier yet more liberating. Feeling the urgency of our surroundings intertwine with the urgency of her confession, I pushed the rising panic deep down. Then tell me. Whatever it is, we need to face it together. With a shaky breath, Alice opened her hand, revealing an old, tarnished locket that glimmered in the firelight. I could see the careworn edges, evidence of the stories it carried within. This was part of Mom's past. It was lost but never forgotten. Inside there's a picture, a secret link to our family. To me, she whispered almost reverently. But just then, a burst of heat and smoke erupted behind us, and I grabbed her arm, pulling her closer. We have to go. We can't let the flames take us. No, we have to confront this, she insisted, her eyes pleading. We can't keep running from our past or this connection. The urgency in her voice ignited the flicker in my heart, the spark of hope amidst despair. Perhaps this was my moment to stop living in shadows of anxiety and regret to find freedom. With the fiery chaos threatening to consume us, I could see a new resolve rise within her. If she was willing to confront what lay ahead, I had to stand with her as the flames roared behind us. I took a deep breath, my heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. Then let us do this together. Let us face the truth. Alice nodded, and together we made our way toward the edge of the raging inferno. The locket still held tightly in her grasp, a tangible piece of the revelation we needed to embrace. With each step forward, the dense smoke slithered around us, but our resolve burned brighter. And then it happened. As we rounded a corner away from the heat, I caught sight of Derek and Olivia. My heart surged at the sight of my son, solid and determined, alongside my daughter whose face was etched with concern. But when they saw us, their expressions morphed into something new, relief mixed with fear. The enormity of our situation palpable. "Alice!" Derek shouted, eyes wide. "We were so worried. What's happening?" "There's something we need to share," I managed to say, struggling for breath as I pulled the words from the chaos in my heart. "And we need to do it together." In that moment I watched as the tension melted from Derek's shoulders, and his eyes darted between Alice and me. "Is this really the time for revelations?" "The fire, it's our chance for healing," I interrupted, firmly standing my ground amidst the chaos. "To build bridges instead of walls. We can't ignore this anymore." It hung in the air between us, a pact sealed by flames and heavy breaths, amid revelations that stirred like hidden embers growing alive once more. I could feel the weight of the past shift around us, the shadows inching away from the light of the locket Alice held. "Let us go outside. There's more. Thanks to this more we all deserve to know," she said, a fierce glimmer in her eyes as she turned to face the encroaching flames. Despite the danger, she clutched the locket tightly, as if it guarded the truths long buried. As we rushed outside, the acrid scent of smoke filling our lungs, I finally felt tethered to each member of my family in the vibrant chaos of the moment. The fire threatened to consume our past, but in facing it together, there was also a chance to pave a path forward. Once outside, the cool night air rushed to greet us, but the warmth of resolve ignited still within our souls. Gathered together amidst the distant sound of sirens and chaos, we found solace beneath the stars that continued to shine even as flames crackled in the distance. With each heartbeat, it became clear that whatever awaited us in the truth, we would emerge together, no longer caged by silence or distrust. Holding the locket aloft, Alice spoke softly, her voice reverberating with conviction. "Whatever we unveil tonight, we face it united." Tears glimmered like dew in the corners of my eyes as I felt the swelling tide of hope enveloping us, bound together beneath the perpetual dance of flames and shadows. And as history began to weave its way into the fabric of our present, I knew this family, frayed yet fierce, would discover a way to heal in the dawn that awaited us. Together we would rise, shaped by the choices we'd make and the truths we uncovered. Because family, while woven from secrets, is ultimately stitched together with love. And tonight, we stepped boldly into the light, daring to embrace the truth under the stars, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was in our shared commitment to face that truth together that we would find redemption that ran deeper than blood. In our hearts and hands we held the power to rewrite the story, united by love, a love fierce enough to transcend the shadows and blaze through the darkness, ultimately leading us back to each other. And so, as the heat of the fire dimmed behind us, I felt my heart open wide in the embrace of resilience, knowing that the most remarkable stories often begin where we are most afraid. Together we would turn the pages onward, mapping out a future colored by hope and connection, forever transformed by the tumult of our past.